Hi, I want to show you what my LaTeX setup is to write LaTeX documents. And the reason is that I saw a nice video about someone else's LaTeX setup by Luke Smith. Cool guy. I think it's this one. So I'll link this one. It's basically his setup. And while I like some things, I do some stuff differently. And so I thought I'd point out the differences. He basically uses a lot of custom snippets or custom shortcuts. And I decided to rely on two plugins that I felt like, instead of me having to develop and come up with shortcuts that I have to remember and then I have to, kind of maintain, I would take some plugins. So let's just jump in here. I increased the font a little bit. Usually I have my display kind of split into three sections. So the left third would be one of these, and the middle would be the second. So the window is actually correctly sized, but I have the lines not kind of breaking like this. So actually, let me show you that. So this is how it usually looks. And also this one is a lot smaller. It's all messed up because I increased the font size. So this is how it usually looks. I have, what does it go, master? Yeah. There you go. This is the structure I usually have, of course, without my my video in the bottom right. And so I have these three sections. I have So this is how it usually looks. Okay, so in the bottom here I have my acronyms, and I have shortcuts for the acronyms because I don't want to always write \AC. And this is actually a rather old setup. I believe there should actually be a snippet for this. No, there's not. But I am going to change this. I just realized to the way that Luke did it. So for this, I would like to have a personal snippet or a personal shortcut, so that I just, write semicolon AC and then I get the whole wiggly brackets thing. The way I had it right now was I had an abbreviation set up, so whenever I wrote LSTM, it would extend it automatically to, the acronym LSTM. But that might be a little tedious. So, okay, let's just go through a couple of things. So let's first look at the Vim file. And so the plugins that are the most important is, I would say, actually let me blow this up again so that you can read this better, would be Vimtex, as well as Nerdtree is kind of helpful, but you don't really need it. I do use uCompleteMe as well as Ultisnips extensively. And I'm not actually sure why I have two snippets plugins still activated. I gotta check if they're both kind of acting. I never noticed a problem with it. So so I have these plugins, which I find very helpful. uCompleteMe is actually nice when you activate it for LaTeX files, because when you're not sure about how to write a word but you've written it before, or if you want to have consistency in the usage of dashes. So, sometimes you write Q learning without a dash, and sometimes you write Q learning with a dash. And so this gives you consistency because it auto-completes for all the words that you used in the past. So that's kind of nice. And then Ultisnips or Vim Snippets, I'm not sure actually which one, I have to check that one, gives me a whole bunch of snippets for LaTeX. And so I can do enumerations, descriptions, itemize environments, I can do sections, subsections, labeling, figures. All this stuff is in there, and there's plenty more that I haven't used. And so they are really helpful. Like I said, Luke used personal snippets that he wrote himself, so they are very customized to his needs. I went with the defaults from the plugins because I felt like they already have so many that I can use. And if I need one more, I can just contribute that. Okay, so now I have to, I'm sorry about this, but I have to kind of reorder this because all of this falls apart the moment you kind of blow up the font the way that I did. And so I have to kind of see how much I can show you. Actually, no, I'm gonna close most of these things because you don't need to see those. You don't need them. I use them, but so this is a lot better. Okay. Here we go. So the general setup that I have is I have this watch file, and it sets up a couple of file system watching, or it sets up a file system watching on my source folder. So in the source folder, I have all of my LaTeX files in there, and so I didn't find a better way yet, but I'm excluding everything that is not a text file. So there's sometimes these text files with a tilde behind it. So I'm excluding everything I don't care about when it changes. And then, whenever there's a modification in the file, then I make my PDF again. And so I just run latexmk, and I tell it also use bibtex, so that my bibliography is in there. And I pretty much just generate a PDF out of it. And it's a lot faster when there's when it doesn't have to redo everything from scratch. So sometimes the building kind of breaks, and so I have this clean text which just removes all the LaTeX things, that like all the intermediary files. And so when I'm currently working on the reinforcement. So when I write this, then it takes a while if it has to redo the whole thing. But now if I just insert one comment here, then it's a lot faster. So that's nice. It kind of does an incremental update of the PDF. It comes, I guess, with latexmk. I didn't really intend that, but yeah. And so what you can see already is that, I don't have these lines kind of wrapping around. So there's, this is lined, this is one line, and this is the next line, because I have relative line numbers. I can't actually tell you which line it is. Yeah, so it's 182 and 183. And so they break, and what they do is they break automatically. And I have that set up in my LaTeX file again. And so the reason for this is, first of all, I like to kind of keep my lines at 120 points or 120 columns. But also with my 3-part setup, so what I showed you earlier, when I have one pane in the left, one in the middle, and then the PDF on the right, then that matches perfectly with 120 columns per row, and so I have this text perfectly binding. Another reason for that is that with the font size on my iPad, that matches perfectly, because I have another video on how to connect to my computer with the iPad. So when I write remotely, these 120 again fit perfectly as a single line. So if I have my iPad open, it's an iPad Pro 12-inch, and so I have 2/3 reserved for the writing, and then 1/3 on the right where I have PDFs open. They are usually very small to read in that moment, but I can zoom in with a pinch to zoom. And so on the left hand, that'll be 120, and so that fits perfectly with the iPad, so that's kind of neat. And yeah, so that's the reason why I have this. So let's look at the Vim RC, and I think I have... Yeah, so I'm not actually sure if I have this just here or somewhere else as well, because I could have sworn I updated my Vim RC a while back and set this just for LaTeX, but maybe not. So anyways, it's basically telling it to have the text width at 120, and so it automatically breaks the line the moment that it gets past 120. And so let's say you have this super long line. I just joined a line or two lines. There's this key combination GQ. So you hit GQ and then a movement. So let's say 4 down. Then it again makes all of these lines the way that you want them. So if you were to join all these lines into one, so now I have all of this one line, and you can see how it's kind of annoying because the whole movement is kind of icky. If I go up one line, I'm not actually going up one line, but this whole block is one line, so that's kind of annoying. So I do GQ 2 and down, and I have the whole alignment there in a better way. And you just saw that it doesn't understand it perfectly if you do this like that, but if you're in the flow of writing, then actually respects latex tags, which is kind of neat. Let me get my notes. Okay, so yeah, there's another neat thing that I have set up, which is folding. So folding comes with a Vim text plugin. So if you look at these lines here, these three, they basically say, whenever you're in a text file, then set the fold method to, I think, expression. And so the fold expression then is set here, and these two lines. And so this allows me, because I also have folding. Yeah, here we go. There it is. Space. Here we go. Enable folding with the spacebar. So if I'm in command mode and I'm within something foldable, so a chapter, a section, a subsection, a paragraph, etc., then it just folds them, which is kind of neat. So I have this way you can very quickly kind of get an overview of your chapter. So this is my chapter on reinforcement learning, and so I have my Markovian decision process text and my Bellman equation, and I still have my entire document split into separate files, which I'm not actually sure anymore if that's even needed with the folding, because you could kind of have your entire document lined up into all these folded parts, so you could have a head and just fold the head away once you don't need it. I think you can also, when you say, okay, I want to go 5 lines down, it skips across all these folded parts. So again, that's neat. But for now I still have it like this. But so folding definitely definitely worthy having in Vim when you work in LaTeX files, because you know they just naturally, if you write a lot, they get long, and so having this folded up and down is a very easy way to kind of get from place to place. Then I actually just, when I paused the video, I found out why I have two plugins for the snippets. So one is, it kind of gives the overall ability to do snippets. It's kind of a snippets framework. And then, so Ultisnips is this framework. And then Vim Snippets, they are the actual snippets. So it's just a collection for a whole bunch of languages. And so I think I'll just add my acronym snippet in here and contribute that one. So kind of nice. I'll just show you, like, you get all these snippets out of the box. So you get, you know, when you type, let's go at the end here. When you type sub, then you can already see the autocomplete here. So all of the ID ones are things that I wrote in the past, but these down here, the snip, are snippets, obviously. And so if you write sub, and then I have the shortcut set to Control E for extend, and it extends that into this subsection, and it, you know, when I then call this subsec, then it also automatically generates the label for me. And then I jump to the next one with Control J, so if I want to change the label, and then to the end, and I'm still in insert mode. So that's kind of neat. Another thing, and I think this one really helps to get a consistency into the way that you implement figures, is the figure environment. That's a nice snippet. So it by default, it gives you you know, all the manipulations for the positioning of the figure, HTPB, but all of them, of course, don't make sense. So you can do remove them, and then, you know, set them up the way you want. And again, with Control J, you kind of jump through them. So how wide is the image going to be? What's the graphics name, actually? So I have in my head somewhere defined that all of my graphics are under the image folder, which is this one. And so I just type in the name of the image that I put in there. And then again, you know, change the caption, the label gets auto-generated. Whoops, why is this now deleted? I think the moment I jumped out of the tmux container did something to the auto-completion. No, it's just the way it is. Okay. Okay, so this is just the last place. So it doesn't jump below the figure. Yeah, so the figure definitely worth it. And then let's see if there's some other snippets that are helpful. Paragraph, I don't really use that much. Minted code typeset. I actually should look into this again, because I learned a fair amount, and now I can use more. I do use enumerate and itemize. Let's go through those very quickly. So if you want to have an enumeration, you just write enum, and then you get the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you write your item number 1, and then you hit enter, write it, extend again, and it makes it an item. So it is the snippet for an item. Ita is italic, so that'll make it italic. And what I usually do is emph, although you can also do, I think, BF for bond, for bold. And then, if you like these enumerations, but the first kind of part is bold, that is actually called a describe or a description list. So these are also used by me. I haven't added any tables to my thesis. I have done tables in the past, but just not with Vim back when I was still writing in other editors. So can't really say much about the table snippet. except for, trying it out. Again, the caption label, and then it jumps into the tabular environment, and I would assume then from here on out it lets you do stuff, because usually you spend a lot of time kind of setting up the way the table actually works. What else do we have? So, I mean, basically, my point is there are a lot of snippets that you get out of the box with these plugins. The way I structure my code is I have sometimes if I'm not sure, so these are not snippets to extend, but they're kind of my snippets. Sometimes I just kind of feel like, I'm writing something, but I have no idea where it goes. I just want to write it down. I just create a snippet in here. And then I can put that in somewhere later or copy it or whatever. Then of course the images, the draw.io I use to generate UML diagrams, etc., which is a great tool because it's free, and it also allows you to edit them in the browser. So let me quickly show you that. You edit them in the browser in this nice editor, which is one of the first ones that actually gets the arrows right and kind of does the whole thing. And this is perfect. It also automatically pushes this into my GitHub repository. So the moment I change a whole bunch of stuff and I say, okay, I want to save this, it commits it into the repository under which my thesis is lying. So that's very neat. Which also brings me to my next point, which is the fact that I have everything in Git. Totally recommendable. Because then you kind of see a progress of what you're doing, where you're working on. I'm sharing this with my supervisor so that she can kind of see what's happening and she can comment on it. Also, for example, I just had a restructure. So I restructured my table of contents in a very major way. Instead of having 9 chapters, I just turned it into 3. And so I did this in a branch, and then you can just kind of, send your supervisor or colleague or whatever an email and say, hey, created this branch. Why don't you check it out? The 2 different versions, which one do you like more? So you don't send document files forth and back. And so, now I have it set up, an introduction, background, and implementation, and results, 4 chapters. And before, all of these subchapters were kind of, or these sections were all chapters. And so you can do this very easily with Git. And if you don't like it, you just jump back to the old branch and cherry pick the changes that you've made after the kind of the restructure, and you're back. So, you can kind of experiment with what you do, but you don't have to tediously work back your document into the previous state. And you also don't have to make a copy of the document and then you edit it, or you work in the new document. And then, you decide that you want to have the old structure back, and then you have to copy some texts. And so all this messiness that you get with what you see is what you get editors, you can kind of keep at bay with Vim and most importantly Git and text-based editing. So yeah, that's I think kind of my setup. I think that should be it. So maybe the let's look at the bibliography. And close this. So this is I'm not sure what the plugin is called. Let me check this. Here you go. So this Vim plugin, definitely also worth it. I use it extensively when I write Python code, especially because I was writing a lot of very repetitive but necessary, and I know that's not true, but I was writing proto files, and so you just kind of have to define the entire domain model, and you always assign each variable a number, and that just looks awful if you don't have it properly aligned. Let's see if I can show you. Oh no, actually it's not here. It's Sample Broker, I believe. Yes. Yeah, so I was writing all these messages, and so you can see I have them all aligned, and so it's much more easy to read. If you don't have this alignment though, boy do things get messy, because you have 1 equal 1 here, and then the 2 there and 3 there, and I believe that it's just so much more readable this way. And the tool for that is Vim Easy Align, and I can also use this on articles. So the way that I usually look for a new article is by going through Google Scholar, because they have every article there, and they also allow you to just quickly copy the BibTeX citation. So let's think about something that we want to cite. I'm not sure I have this already. Action condition. I mean, let's just hypothetically say I want to cite this. So you hit this little citation symbol, and then you click on BibTeX, and you get this. And so to add it into your bibliography, you paste it like that. And so you see what I mean with it's all kind of misaligned and hard to read. I mean, this way it's it's actually more fair to show it like this. So I mean, it's still kind of I don't like it. So what you do is GAIP and then the equal sign. Whoops. Actually, I didn't remember how it exactly works. I just have to let my fingers do it. So it's GAIP, and then you see this little easy align thing. And so here it asks you, what do you want to align it to? So you can do equals, you can do, I think, brackets and spaces and stuff. So you say equal, and it aligns it properly. And all of a sudden, it's much easier to read. So that's definitely a recommendation. And I think then, in that moment, I am actually done. We have the bibliography. I showed you the snippets. I showed you my Vim RC. It's also, if you want to have the Vim RC, it's up on GitHub under pascalwood.files, I believe. So my Vim file is up here. So you can steal anything you want from there. Feel free. And yeah, thanks for watching.